I'd like to welcome everybody to the Thursday, July 10th, 2025 Public Works Committee meeting. Kelly, can we have roll call?
Chairman Lockmiller,
Here.
Alderwoman Tice.
Here.
Alderwoman Goad.
Here.
Alderman Erger, absent. 3 or 4 members are present, and you have a quorum.
Sounds good. Move on to approval of the agenda. If everyone's had a chance to check out the agenda, and can we approve by acclamation?
Yes.
It is approved by acclamation. Move on to citizen comment. Anyone from the audience or online that would like to speak for 3 minutes can come up to the mic, state your name, make your comment, and you're welcome to come on up.
I understand that we need to have these new devices to make things safer.
Excuse me. I need your name.
Scott Mouche.
Thank you.
I'm an electrician and a resident. But Brentwood stance on, like, when I change out a service panel and now they're wanting me to make all the breakers arc fault in that panel, that's not really what the code intends. The code is intended for new builds and remodels. When I change out a panel in an existing house, I shouldn't have to play around to make these things work with existing wiring. These houses are from 1900, 1930. They're just not compatible with the new technology. When you remodel a house, yeah, you bring it up to current code, but to force this new technology on these old houses is just, and no one else in St. Louis is doing this. This is only in Brentwood. We're the smallest municipality in St. Louis County. Why are we doing stuff that no one else is doing? Like, it's ludicrous from a contractor's point of view. How do I bid a job like this and not screw over our residents? Like, there's people that can't afford stuff now, and we're gonna double the cost of a service? I mean, you're taking it from $3,000 to $6,000 with these new breakers. And it's really just not right. I really wish Brentwood would just take the stance that they would follow St. Louis County's lead on things. If St. Louis County's not doing it, why is Brentwood doing it? St. Louis County is the hardest place in the country to get a license. And I just don't agree with the way Brentwood's doing things.
Thanks for your comment. Anyone else in the audience? Please state your name and address.
So my name is Maddie Agers, and I'm not a Brentwood resident, but I do represent contractors in the area at a local nonprofit for HVAC. And our office address is on 2323 Sublette in the city. I just had 2 questions from my board of directors. A lot of them do business around Brentwood. We've got about 175 contractors in our association, and they asked me to reach out with 2 questions. What sections of the 2024 code are they looking to amend, if any? And they're asking specifically about the R12 insulation factor. And they're saying, from a contractor's perspective, what do we do about the R12 insulation factor that they want in an unconditioned space on flex duct? Because nobody makes R12 insulation for flex duct specifically. They make it for ductwork, but not flex duct. And they said that we've reached out to every single manufacturer we could think of that would even sell R12 flex duct, and that's not even a thing. And then their second thought was on interlocking CO detectors. 2024 code calls for 1 on each floor. Will they allow Bluetooth CO detectors in mechanical rooms? And the thought there is you need 1 on each floor, and Bluetoothable would basically, if one floor starts the smoke detector, then all of them would ring. And they're saying, are you going to require that they're Bluetoothable or hardwired? Because a hardwired CO2 addition would drive up cost considerably for every single mechanical permit pulled, which is a cost that residents are going to incur. So from a contractor's perspective, it's going to make Brentwood residents suffer greatly on a cost, because we're going to have to hire electricians to come to come wire in on each floor. So those were the 2 questions I just wanted to present. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we can delve into this a little bit later in the agenda when we take up the code again. Kelly, anybody online?
No one with their hand raised.
Move on to reports of committee chair and alderman. I have no report. Alderman Tice,
No report.
Alderman Code.
No report.
Then we will move on to city administrator report, but no report, right, Bola?
No report, not until Sustainability
Okay.
Commission update.
Move on to the department and commission reports. Start off with Public Works Department.
Hello, have a bunch of different projects to update you on. So the first one is just simply manually drive the retaining wall between those two properties at 2832. Some of the tasks that we still need to do after speaking with the city attorney, we'll need to have authority to buy back the property from the property owners. That's that quitclaim deed. We'll also need temporary construction easement for working space because there's only about 5 or so feet that the wall occupies within right of way. And then lastly, a construction contract from a qualified contractor to do the work. I've already got quotes from last year, and I refreshed one of the quotes for this year, so I've got that one checked off. But that's basically where we are with that project. Swim Club, just wanted to mention that the president of Swim Club had asked us if we could better mark the fire lanes on either side of Swim Club, so we painted yellow on the curbs up to the limits of where it needs to be. Eulalie Avenue, one of the things we've been doing is like a filler job when we're waiting on locates is to mill out the joints that have spalled, broken apart, and then we put asphalt back. So you should notice it's a little bit smoother. It's still kind of a patchwork quilt in areas, but it's smoother. It doesn't have that lip that you would encounter whenever you drive every 20 feet or so. And then we're gonna look into like which slabs are in the worst shape and try to budget for those in upcoming budget cycles. It says 9106 Eulalie, it should be 9106 Madge, but if you recall, we spoke of that project before. The person had a backup on their sewer, the backup was fixed, but this is a very strange routing of the lateral because it's from 1927. So it goes out the guy's front door, it turns right and goes down over 50 feet to high school instead of typically it's just perpendicular to your home. So MSD, I contacted them. They're talking to their engineers to see if the original response was they weren't going to do anything. The person has a working lateral. Why should they fix it? But I said, well, there's more for it to break, and it's underneath the tree lawn, and there is a city-owned tree there, so I'd like to avoid any damage to the tree. And then Eric Lake at Public Works is working on an estimate with one of our contractors to see what it would cost just to run a little stub right to the main that's right in front of his house. So if it's not too expensive, we'll bring it back and see if we could do it this year with the, committee and board's approval. If it's too expensive, maybe we have to wait until next year. But I think the right thing to do is just to get rid of that extension that runs over to high school. Switching gears, the stormwater bid package one. I met with Gonzalez. They gave me today a bid advertisement package, so I have the draft. I got to go through it and read it and mark it up. But that would be for 5 different projects. The 2217 Park Ridge, that's Site 35, that would actually be included with CSL Mary. I know that MSD is working with the resident to get an easement to do the improvements. A design is at least forthcoming on that. I met with Gonzalez out at 8620, 8616 Eulalie. The storm inlet's in the rear of the property. So in order to do that project, we have to coordinate with the property owners. There is an easement for MSD's pipe, but when you replace the inlet in the backyard, I need to take down a section of fence to get access to it between the two homes. I did speak with one of the property owners. I need to speak with the other one just to make them aware of it, give them drawings, to explain everything. And, after the bids are in, then we'll see if we're still moving forward. I don't know what the bids will be, And then the last item here, Pine Avenue, the south side west of Brentwood Boulevard. This is next to the veterinary emergency group, the building there on the south side of Pine, west of Brentwood Boulevard. The no parking sign that's out there now only says no parking here to corner, and that's only about the first 50 feet. If you look at Table 3A in the municipal code, it's supposed to be no parking at any time for the first 150 feet on both sides. So the south side does not meet the code. But the way the signs are, people are parking on that south side. Usually anywhere from 2 to up to 5 cars can fit there. But one of the challenges is if you're coming eastbound and they're on that side, you can't necessarily get access to the right-hand turn lane, not easily. I did speak with we sent a letter last week just to make people aware of that we want to put these signs up, encumbering that first 150 feet. Had some residents call saying that, they really don't want the veterinary clinic group to park in the neighborhood. It is a public street. It's not parking by residents only, so anyone can park there. So I did speak with the clinic. The clinic is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Typically, they have 3 shifts. Of those 3 shifts, it can be anywhere from 10 to up to 20 employees. There's only around 24 stalls that are there and then 2 ADA, so a total of 26. So some of the challenges are that, they have their staff park off-site, some have to park on-site. And the fact that they're open 24 hours a day, they usually see 60 patients a day, in a 24-hour period. They were using the library's parking lot. They had an agreement with them. They can no longer use it because the library is under construction. But they are moving forward with a future agreement with the library to try to use it in 2026. But that doesn't, address what's going on right now in 2025. So just want to make you aware of that. We're going to take it to public safety. I don't know if there's any input from this committee to take to public safety.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Okay, well, there is, but first of all, I haven't thanked you publicly for going back to MSD on 2217 Park Ridge and getting that project included in MSO Mary. So thank you very much for doing that, and it's good to give that home some relief. On the Pine, this is a big issue. There are a lot of cars. I'm not really sure how this got approved with this limited amount of parking for the veterinary group with the number of employees who are there. But I would advocate that block, I mean, you need to do what you're doing, the no parking for safety, but I would definitely advocate that next stretch of Pine has a parking by resident only tag added, much like on Moritz near the high school, because a lot of people come in and the residents should be able to park at their homes. There's some older folks on that stretch. So if you could take that to public safety, I would appreciate it.
Okay.
And Dan, I guess we've got 2 new members on this committee. Could you just give a brief history or what the stormwater bid packages are and how we ranked all that?
I'm
And
trying to remember what year that Gonzalez did it, but there's a stormwater report that had 42 different sites that were self-reported. There were more than 42 initially, but they whittled it down to 42 after they looked at it. Some instances, it was just, a private issue of a downspout, not working properly. Of the 42 that are in the report, they prioritized 6 of them based on, several different factors. And then we're just trying to work down the list. These were turned in as OMCI projects. So the goal with that is MSD approved them as an OMCI project. We have OMCI funds. We would do the project and then reimburse ourselves with our own OMCI funds. So we're looking at a few $100,000 worth within that first bid package. The total I know is in the millions if you were to do all 42 of them. It's fairly significant. I want to say it's at least $6 million. And this is just, moving forward, we do a phase when we can. And we also do have stormwater monies through Prop S. That's $50,000 a year. So we can actually combine them now. We do still have an OMCI turned on. It's just a lot less than what it was in the past. So,
questions for Dan? All right, Dan, thank you very much.
thanks.
Move on to Parks and Recreation Department. Eric?
Good afternoon, evening. So added something in late today, just a couple real small updates. The first is Swim Club Lane, the right-of-way. And during the Brentwood Gators swim meets, the Gators, or the Brentwood Swim Club lets vehicles park in the grassy area owned by the swim club to the south of the property, south of the parking lot. And what's happened over the past couple of years is vehicles continue to encroach onto that right-of-way. So much so that they've actually even damaged the fence at 8657 White Avenue. And so we talked about that as a staff, and we thought there's some things we could do to kind of define that right-of-way area a little bit better with some natural plantings. And so that's what we're looking at going to do that will hopefully then alleviate the possibility of people using that area for parking. So we're looking at design now, trees, shrubs, things like that, and then we'll probably do it later this year when, especially when it's time for tree planting. The second item is the Deer Creek Greenway extension for Great Rivers Greenway. We talked about this a couple months ago. They're actively working on an extension to Deer Creek Greenway that will go from Brentwood all the way to Ladue, linking to Ladue High School. We had our first formal meeting with the design team, so that was exciting. SWT is that design team. And we talked a lot about possible connections, things like that. So they're really starting that process. And it's going to be a 18-month design process, so it is going to go a little bit slowly. But one of the things they talked about was community engagement. The GRG is big proponents of community engagement. So they've already reached out to the city asking if there are lists of residents interested in participating in these future planning meetings. So we're thinking about that, and I think we're going to work with Michelle to get something out on social media and try to get some volunteers that then we can forward on to Great Rivers Greenway. So those are the two quick updates.
Thanks for looking into the issue on White for the neighbor there. I know they're excited to see a change, so thank you for looking into that. And then that's it. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.
Eric. Move on to the Planning and Development Department. Whitney?
Good evening. The monthly reports for June are included in your packet. We had a total of 791 inspections with 229 new permits received. I also threw in a 6-month time frame where there was from January 1 to June 30th, there was a total of 1,104 permits. Code enforcement for June had 18 new cases and 30 inspections, and from January 1 to June 30th, there was a total of 239 cases and 569 inspections. Planning and Zoning Commission met last night for the continuation of the Bitcoin Education Center at 8513 Manchester. It's for a text amendment and conditional use permit. They recommended approval, so that will be on the July 21st Board of Aldermen meeting for a public hearing. We also had the continued discussion of the 7 Brew Coffee at 8828 Manchester, and that also received approval, and it will be on the 21st. New projects are Tona's Margarita Bar and Restaurant at 1221 Strassner. That will be on the August 18th Board of Aldermen meeting. The site development plan for Bi-State Metro platform improvements at 1401 Music Memorial Drive will also be on the July 21st meeting. That does not require a public hearing. And the comprehensive sign plan for 2001 South Hamley was continued to the August 13th meeting for additional discussion. Next week, we have the Architectural Review Board for 3 projects. And we did not receive any applications for Board of Adjustment for this month, so that has been canceled, and we will see if we get any applications for the August meeting.
Excuse me, any questions for Whitney? Whitney, when do we take up I know Planning and Zoning's been working on the guidelines for home?
Oh, I'm sorry. That will also be, that was discussed at the last meeting. That will also be on the July 21st as a presentation. We are seeing this, it will be a long meeting.
Scheduling my vacation right now.
Yeah, that is for the residential design guidelines, and we will then take your input, and then it will go back to Planning and Zoning for adoption as a resolution as an amendment to the comprehensive plan. Those are not adopted at the Board of Aldermen level, so we are just going to seek your input on that. And then we are also proceeding with the commercial side as well.
That will come back in the fall.
Yes, that will come back in the fall. we hope to have it completed by the end of the year.
All right, thank you, Whitney. Move on to Sustainability Commission. I guess this is you again, Eric?
No, actually, this
Oh.
is me. So this is just a reminder to the committee and to the board as a whole, that back in 2009, throughout the 95th General Assembly, the Property Assessment Clean Energy Act, called PACE, was adopted and signed into law. And then in 2017, August of 2017, there was an ordinance that was approved by the Board of Aldermen joining that and allowing businesses, commercial businesses within the city, to take advantage of a clean energy development funding for improvements, renewable energy in their buildings. And since then, only one business in the city of Brentwood, and this was back in 2020, Town Place Suites by Marriott, took advantage of this. This was a $26 million development of this hotel, and they used PACE to finance and install various LED lighting and a variety of HVA systems in that facility. So apparently when the board adopted this ordinance in 2017, the board also named the city administrator as a member of the advisory board. But because they've had vacancies in the executive director of this advisory board, they have not met for a long time. So they just recently filled the position, and that person called me to let me know that there will be a meeting in 2 weeks. It's just advisory, and they'll educate us on their role, their purpose, and encourage us to help them get the word out to businesses in our community so that they can take advantage of that. So just reminding us that this is also another opportunity for our businesses to find funding to do improvements that they would like to see in their businesses.
All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. It's just made up the minutes from our previous meeting. Can we just go ahead and approve by acclamation? And that will be approved. Move on to old business, and we're looking again at the 2024 building codes. I think, Whitney, we were going to have fire department kind of chime in and also give us an update on how the meeting
Yes.
went on the 8th.
Yes, so on Tuesday night, we held a meeting for over close to 400 of our contractors and representatives of the HBA. I have included a memo in your packet. We also have reached out and have found that West County EMS and Fire Protection District have adopted the 2024 codes. Monarch Fire Protection Districts are on the 2024 IFC and the IBC. Town and Country is currently in their 90-day public comment period hope to have adoption by the end of the year. Warrenburg, Missouri adopted them on January 12th, 2025. Hollister, Missouri, those became effective on October 1st, 2024. Independence in Missouri adopted theirs on December 16th, 2024, with an effective date of January 1, 2025. Richmond Heights went into effect on April 21st, 2025. The city of Des Peres is also in their review process, and they plan for adoption by the end of the year. St. Louis County is currently reviewing the 2024 codes and have to have theirs adopted by July 2027. Webster Groves is currently on the 2015 and will be looking to update to the 2021 and 2026. Creve Coeur, Frontenac, Clayton, and Ladue are all currently on the 2021 codes. And we'll be looking to adopt to the 2026 when those are released, with implementation in 2027. So we've also included in the packet the PowerPoint from the meeting. We corrected some of the typos. And we do have a number of recommendations that were attached to the memo. The time frame that we are looking for so that we have adoption by January 1st is a public hearing and first review of the legislation on the September 14th. So we are looking for some direction tonight, hopefully adoption at the August meeting. We would schedule the public hearing at the Board of Aldermen on the September meeting. We are required to have a 90-day comment period. So then that would leave the second reading and final adoption on the December 15th meeting. with implementation on January 1st. We did receive a comment that the Home Builders Association would like us to hold off now for a 90-day period. We feel like that's excessive since that 90-day period is incorporated as part of the requirements for the adoption. And we can work with them to address any current concerns between now and December. John can walk through some of the recommendations.
Hey, Michelle.
Oh, I was going to just make sure I'm understanding correctly. So the list of cities you read out, Richmond Heights, Warrensburg, Monarch, West County EMS, those have adopted the 2024 codes.
Correct,
So the ones we are looking to go to, this is the list that's already adopted.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
So John will go through the our recommendations on the building codes, but we also wanted to seek your input. For 2 years now, we have done the low-mow April. And does the city want us to memorialize that and establish that in our code, we would just have high grass and weed enforcement only starting in March? So we wanted your thoughts on that, and we could come back at the August meeting with that. And I'll have John.
Good evening. First, I'd like to answer this young lady's questions. I think we can take care of that for her. The one thing that we've looked at is the 24 code, the fuel gas code does require that, or you're saying that chimneys shall be lined. So a brick chimney would have to be lined. And working with the fire department, and that we've come up with, instead of lining every brick chimney, we want to replace that with brick chimneys are required to have an approved level 1 inspection. If approved, a liner would not be required, because we understand that liners are another expense that they would have to put in. The CO detectors, that's already in the code. You're allowed to use the Bluetooth smoke detectors. And I'm sorry, what was the other question you had?
I think that was the main thing. What, on the first thing
That would be at the end of, in December, when we go through all the approvals of all the codes. Okay, does that help you?
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Can I just add something? Wasn't one of the questions something to do with insulation, the ductwork?
Oh, the installation of the ductwork.
Yeah, I thought that's what you were.
No. Yeah, that's something separate. And we looked at that today, and it looks like the St. Louis area is still in a zone 4, which would only require the R8. Okay? It's real close. We're right on the line there, but I think in R8.
Okay, perfect.
We would stay with that. Okay. Would you like me to run through what our recommendation? Okay. On the International Energy Code, at 405.13, new buildings with a gross conditional floor space of 10,000 square foot shall be equipped to measure and record energy consumption. The code elaborates with pages of information on how to do this. We would recommend removing the code. I don't think at this time right now is a good time to look at adding something like that on. We'll go to the electrical code. Surge protection devices where a feeder supplies any of the following, a surge protection device shall be installed. And that would be in dwelling units, dormitories, guest rooms and suites at hotels and motels, patient sleeping rooms, or medical facilities. We would recommend leaving that into the code. Leaving that in the code. 218.8, ground fault circuit interrupter
Hey,
protection.
John.
John, slow down.
Sorry, I
Oh,
was
I'm
going to
sorry.
clarify. Dwelling units, is that multifamily dwelling units or single-family homes?
Dwelling unit would be considered 1 and 2 family
so
for,
one and two.
for residential purposes.
Okay, so
And when you
single.
go above that, then that goes into the building code.
Okay, so it's a we would leave this in for single-family.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think so. I think that's where well, it could affect even apartment complexes, things like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Ground fault circuit interrupter protection for specific appliances. That would include automotive vacuums, drinking water coolers, high-pressure spray washers, vending machines, tire inflation machines, sump pumps, dishwashers, electric ranges, wall-mounted ovens, counter-mounted cooking appliances, clothes dryers, and microwave ovens. So those would all be on a GFI now, if we adopt that. Emergency disconnects on 1 and 2 family dwellings. We did have a discussion with the fire department too, and it seems that everybody is okay with that. And that would be putting a disconnect on the exterior of the building. For if there's a fire, the fire department can go back there and cut the electric to the house. So make it safer for the firemen to be in there. But that would include in all dwelling units and their associated structures and common areas, guest rooms and common areas in hotels, childcare and education facilities, the following spaces within medical facilities, which would include offices accessible to the public, lobbies and waiting rooms, patient sleeping rooms, transportation waiting areas, gyms, rinks, fitness centers, and auditoriums, dormitory units, residential care facilities like nursing homes and hospitals, and agricultural areas accessible to the public. So we would recommend removing the dwelling units out of that. Okay, but leaving everything else in. So the 1 and 2 family, we would recommend taking that out, but leaving everything else in there.
Would this affect Brentwood Forest condos?
Those are new structures. So, I mean, those are existing structures. This would be a new structure.
Okay, new structure. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. We'll go to the International Residential Code, and this is what a lot of people are talking about. So the N1103.6.4, intermediate exhaust control for bathrooms and toilet rooms, bathroom vents must now be controlled by timers. Occupant sensors, humidity sensor are containment control. Simple on-off switches are no longer allowed. We would recommend removing that and leaving switches for all that. And if somebody wants to put one of those motion sensors in, they can do that. But again, that's just adding another cost that we think we could live without. N1104.2 is interior lighting controls. Requirements for interior lighting controls have been added. These codes exempt security lighting, so your outside lighting, your security lighting on the outside. Habitable spaces, light fixtures in habitable spaces shall be controlled with a dimmer switch or with an automatic shutoff. We recommend removing that also. N1104.2.2, specific locations, garages, unfinished basements, laundry rooms, and utility rooms shall be controlled with an automatic shut-off switch again. Our recommendation is to take that out and just leave regular switches in. N1104.3, exterior lighting controls, where the total exterior lighting exceeds 30 watts, the lighting must comply with the following: controlled by manual on-off switch with an automatic shut-off. Lighting will be shut off automatically when daylight is present. Controls that override automatic shut-off actions are not allowed unless the override automatic returns to normal operation within 24 hours. Again, we recommend taking that out. Chimney linings, the exception for chimney linings for pre-existing, which we actually talked about at the beginning there, again, because it's in it's in 2 different areas in the code book, different code books. We would recommend, again, that we would say that if you have a chimney inspection is fine, your brick chimney is good, you don't need to line it. Emergency disconnects, an emergency disconnect is required outside the house. It must be easily accessible and properly labeled. We do recommend not changing that, to keep that in there. So a new house would have a disconnect on the outside for like the fire department in case there's a fire. We can have the fire department address it. We've had discussion about this today because we feel that they could still put a lock on it. And if there is a fire, the fireman's going to come out with a bolt cutter. They're going to cut that lock off anyway. So that would be, it works out for both people. Surge protection, E3606.5, whole house surge protection is required. This requirement also applies to replacement of existing service equipment. The recommendation we have is to keep it in the code because it's a safety. E3902, which is our last one, ground fault circuit interrupter protection, GFCI protection is required on all applicable 125 and 250 volt receptacles regardless of the amperage. GFCI protection is required on all applicable 125 and 250 volt receptacles, regardless of the amperage. So this is really covering almost everything in a house. All basement receptacles must be GFI protected. All wet and damp locations require GFI, even if not specifically specified in this section. And so we recommend keeping those in. And I know last time I was here, there was some discussion about the lumens. I did a little research on that. So if an LED bulb provides 900 lumens and has a luminous efficiency of 100 lumens per watt, it only uses 9 watts of power. So, and there is actually a chart here also I brought. And the chart states, so you take a 30 watt bulb at 300 lumens, it only pulls 4 to 6 watts compared to 30. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Any questions?
Go ahead.
Even better about that. That was very helpful, so thank you. So I have a couple of bigger, up here questions, bigger questions. So last time we were together, you handed out a cost comparison on a 1,500 square foot house for the 24 versus the 18 codes. Are you still comfortable with this, or with some of the changes you've made? Or, and I don't know that we're building a whole lot of 1,500 square feet
Right.
houses in
Right.
Brentwood, so the costs are going to be a lot more than this.
Right. I myself, I think for safety purposes, yes, I agree with what the code says in that you're looking at, let's say, $1,000 to $1,500, maybe $2,000. Well, the homes that we're getting in here, 6, 7, 8, $100,000, $1 million houses. I feel that's probably a small amount to have somebody's safety in mind.
Okay. So then my next question is to clarify what is required for additions, because I think that's going to be really a situation like how much of this, if you do an addition that's 50% of the value of your house, then how much of this are the residents then required to comply with?
It would depend on what's being built. If you're putting just a couple bedrooms on the back of your house, if you have to upgrade your electrical system, then that upgraded system would have to meet the current code. We talked about smoke detectors. You can have, if it's under 50%, you can have just regular smoke detectors, wired smoke detectors. It doesn't have to be, they don't have to be interconnecting. But if it's over that 50% mark, you can use Bluetooth smoke detectors. So that way, it's the thing you got to remember. You may have a fire down in a room addition in somebody's bedroom down there, or just a living room, whatever it is, and they may be on the second floor. That smoke detector down there goes off. You're probably not going to hear it.
Yeah. So the smoke detector and CO2, like that, I'm great with that, because that's life safety.
Right.
And the expenses.
Right.
It's there, but it's minimal. So I'm really questioning, and I'm not an electrician, and I'm looking at the back of the room.
Back here.
So if you have a really old house, I'll use myself as we added on. We have an old panel and we have a new panel, and the new panel deals with all the new stuff.
Right.
And then we have this old panel, which has been replaced since we've lived there. We moved in, and it was the whatever the round things are.
Fuses?
Fuses.
Yeah.
This is how little I'm. But so what happens when that old panel has to get upgraded? And as I think Mr. Boucher was saying the other night, there's old wiring. There's are then somebody just trying to add a few rooms onto their house, rewiring their entire house because it doesn't work with the new.
No, as I said the other night, they wouldn't have to rewire their whole house. If it doesn't work, if there's a problem with the arc faults or with the GFIs for some reason, then we have the capability of going in saying, okay, this doesn't work with this, maybe it's knob and tube wiring. It won't work with knob and tube wiring, so no, you do not have to put those in.
So Does the electrician have to do the work? And then and then say, oh yeah, there's knob and tube wiring, so you can go back? Or will you come in proactively? Like, how are the electricians supposed to know what needs to be, what you're going to, what the city's going to require them to do?
I would hope that the electrician goes and looks at that when they bid their project and goes in and looks and says, oh yeah, there's knob and tube wiring here. And then they can let us know. We went out last night and met Mr. Shea at a house, totally weird way they ran the service to it. So you have to be able to go in and say, okay, this is something different. This won't meet with the new codes. We have the right then to say, okay, we understand, we'll let you do this.
Okay, and I appreciate that you're going to do that, but I guess I'm just confused about the mechanism to do that.
That gives, my authority by code gives me, the code gives me the authority to do that.
Right, but is this before, like, when in the process does that happen? Is this
understand.
before the electrician does the work? So, like, the electrician knows there's knob and tube wiring, so does the electrician need to have you in and say?
Oh, he needs to call us, we can work with him, and be more than happy to work with him.
Okay.
Yeah, so when they go in and like I say, when they go in and bid their project, hopefully they're looking to see what that is. If they know they have a house that was built in the 40s, 30s, chances are it's still there. Knob and tube is still there and still being used.
Yeah.
And it can still be used. It's still allowed by code. As long as it's in good shape, the covering's not worn off, broken off of it, it's fine. It's actually a good system.
Okay. And then my last sort of big picture question is, so what of these will be added to an occupancy permit requirement? So one that I've seen that used to not, like if just an old house, but it gets turned over. And the example that I'm seeing is houses that have the driveways that go down, and they used to just be built. And now it appears that at occupancy change, there's a lot of fences going in next to guardrails next to the driveway. So using that as an example, what of these new codes are we going to be applying to
The new codes
occupancy
wouldn't
permits?
apply to those.
Right, but
The
are there
property maintenance
pieces?
code
Okay.
applies to the existing like that.
Okay.
So if it's in the property maintenance code in guardrails, next to a walking surface is in there. So that's why you're seeing some of those.
Okay, so when did that, I mean, that's sort of a separate, that's a separate update that happened along the way that has nothing to do with these?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
John, could you kind of explain to me, we seem to have surge protection devices, and then we've also got, then it looks like the entire electrical panel has to be GFI protected. Isn't that a redundancy, or am I not looking at that?
Surge protection and GFI are two different things.
Yeah.
Surge protection would be like a surge lightning strike. That's a surge. Goes through the system. It can ruin your TVs, your refrigerators, your computer, things like that. And a GFI is like a GFI is actually trips, I believe, is at 3 milliliters of a short. So as soon as it hits, it cuts electric to that outlet.
Right, but I mean, I'm looking at E3902 ground fault. Are those just anything over? That would look like it was any type of wall outlet or anything would now need to have GFI protection?
Yes, sir, and that's why it's something that we can talk about. Again, I'm a life safety guy, and the ground fault protection in outlets for anybody, you can have a short in a lamp, you could have a short in your TV, and that would trip that GFI to keep somebody from getting shocked.
All right.
Yes, I had a question. It was in the PowerPoint from, I believe it was Tuesday night. Could you help me understand the stairway covers? Because there's a lot of stairs in the neighborhood. There's a lot of 3 steps, then a walking surface, then 5 more going into the house, lots
Right.
of decks. I'm thinking a lot of people are probably going to need to replace their decks at some point. Could you help me understand who would and would not need coverings for the stairs to the deck?
The way it's written, if it goes to a patio, a deck, to your front door, your guardrails and handrails requirements would still be there. If it's a couple steps that maybe leads to a flower garden or something like that, those would not be required. Those would not be required to meet the code.
What about the covering? It talked about stair coverings.
For exterior stairs and commercial,
It was under international residential codes.
yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm thinking what that was. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't. Yeah,
Maybe
I'm going back. I'm
afterwards.
trying to think. I'm sorry. Yeah, we've gone through, as you can see, we've gone through a lot of code books here.
Yeah, it's just for clarification letter, it's 318.7 stairways section. So just understanding if someone put in a new deck, would they have to figure out how to cover the stair portion of it, since there's a lot of open backyard
No,
decks?
no. That wouldn't be what that's for.
Okay.
And I'll look it up here for you and get that for you in a minute when we get time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a number of people who probably be putting in decks or
Oh, yeah.
at least replacing decks. So I want to make sure they
Yeah,
don't
no, it's not. You don't have to put a cover over your stairs on a deck.
on a deck,
Yeah.
even if it leads to your house or attaches to your house.
I'm sorry.
Even if it attaches to your house.
Even if it attaches to your house, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else for John?
No.
Okay, could we hear from our fire department on their concerns?
Good evening. We have the fire marshal with us, who is our subject matter expert on all codes. So I'll give you the high-level view, and then Tim can give you any drill-down details. So the International Fire Code is directly tied to our ISO rating. So the latest adoption of a code that you have, the more points you get for ISO. They allow you to be no more than 2 code cycles behind before they start subtracting points. We currently are comfortably in the Class 2 rating for ISO, so that's good for a department our size with the resources we have and how we staff. The changes for the 24 fire code are what we are concerned with, essentially are focused on commercial occupancies. So the changes essentially deal with the occupiable roof, which is essentially a roof on a structure that is used as a party deck, restaurants, gatherings, things of that nature. Kind of prevalent down in the city. They're more popular on the towns and areas where you have summer all year round. Not real popular up in Canada, Montreal, things like that, where you have wintertime. But in our case, there is a potential for this to come up with some of the projected future development that we see on the horizon. And Brentwood is a central portion of the county, so at some point someone's going to come up with an idea for an occupiable roof. So we want to have the code in place to address that. And essentially for us, it's elevator access for anything above 3 stories. It has to meet the egress requirements. So you treat it as 2 exits. There has to be 2 exits off of that. And then really important for us to have markings that say that is there. And again, it's based on future development. We don't have anything in town right now like that, but we're planning for the future. Hot button issue for me personally, it's the storage of lithium-ion batteries. We have a couple of businesses in town right now where you can take a computer battery, whatever, lithium-ion, and just give it to them and they'll recycle it for you. A lot of times they just throw it into a wheeled bin and it sits back in the storage room. I can give you a direct example of a lithium-ion fire we had in front of the firehouse with the paper shred truck. It took a ion battery that was hot and it ignited the truck in front of the firehouse. So fortunate for him, we were there, put the fire out. There are approved containers for that, so we would like the approved containers to hold the lithium-ion batteries, and then also for that, if that facility stores those, to have an updated evacuation plan for that particular area where those batteries are stored. Big one for us, emergency responder communication enhanced system. This is essentially a radio repeater system that is put into a structure that, based off of the type of metal and shielding, prevents our new digital radios from being to operate inside that structure. That currently exists. This is just an upgrade to the systems that are working off of the old 800 system. We work off of trunk system now. Another big one for us is carbon monoxide detection. So essentially for commercial buildings that meet the requirements for the new portion of the code, we'd like them to have the CO detectors, and on existing buildings if they meet the criteria. So if you have a commercial building right now that does not have any gas-fired appliances in it, you're not going to have any carbon monoxide, so we wouldn't require a detector in that structure. And the big one right now for us, which is an issue, potential issue, but it is becoming pretty vogue, are the photovoltaic systems. That's essentially solar panels on a roof. Depending on the height of the building, commercial structure, we may not know if there are solar panels on there. That adds weight to the structure. Again, it's a battery storage system, so you're talking, we just talked about lithium-ion batteries, we're talking about huge storage cells somewhere up near the roof. So marking systems for that, access issues, and then just to meet the code for that. For the city of Brentwood to adopt the new 24 fire codes, minimal cost. And again, because we're looking at these as commercial structures, we're also advocating for sprinkler systems in multifamily structures. So this would be apartments, condominiums, and townhouses. So our recommendation is that we adopt the 24 fire code, and what we just covered here are the main changes from 18 to 24 that would affect our city. Glad to answer any questions.
Yeah, one question about the battery storage in homes. Are there any battery storage, solar battery storage in homes in Brentwood that you're aware of? And are there different codes that things need to be done?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge. I know you have to have a permit to get one of those installed. And again, the battery storage solution is very similar to what you would need it's similar to what you would have if you have an EV car. All it is just a huge battery that runs your vehicle. I know we have a code that applies to the ability to have a charge station applied to your house. But right now, I do not know of any structures that have solar panels on them right now. And then as far as
well, there's solar panels on homes. I just didn't know if we had solar panel batteries and if you had concerns as a fire department about those batteries in homes.
So essentially, as long as they stay cool, that's pretty much the issue. So when we have, for EV fires for cars, those are what are most prevalent.
One that was permitted and inspected.
Okay, all right.
So there is one.
There's one.
So it's thermal runaway is what we get concerned with. So if those batteries start to malfunction, a lot of times that's from a high impact strike. If you park your EV car in a hurricane and salt water gets into it, that acts as a reactant and that starts the batteries to actually start discharging. They go into thermal runaway and they just feed off of each other. We can't cool them fast enough. So as long as the maintenance is taken care of them and they're inspected per manufacturer recommendations, they should be safe. Now, accidents can happen. But if we know that a house has a lithium-ion storage cell in it, that will change our tactics somewhat. But the idea is to get that storage unit out, away from the structure, and a lot of times it's just let it burn itself out.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Are you currently notified when a permit's pulled for one of those that that certain resident has that?
We have a very good working relationship with the planning department.
Okay.
Very good working relationship.
So you pull up on a resident, you're going to know if it's a
Yes,
fire,
so
that it has a solar.
Yes, so our process right now would be if we know we have an address, either commercial or residential, that has anything that's a high hazard for us, we can have East Central put that as a notifier in the CAD notes. So that will come up just like you would have, the police department would have an EDP or a tag for, known to be violent towards police. We can put that notifier in there, and then if that resident moves, and particularly if it's a ion system or lithium ion system, that's going to stay. That'll just stay with that address. So we have ways to overcome that. Now, if you decide you have a battery storage unit and it's not registered, we may find out about it the wrong way, but we have ways to deal with it.
Thank you, first of all, for the report. Very helpful. I have no objections to the sprinklers in all the multifamily units. Is there a way we can make sure we hear comments from, I know Brentwood Forest has condos, Ward 2 has 2 different condo buildings plus the large apartment complex building. Is there a way we could help notify or make sure these folks are aware of it so they don't feel blindsided when the codes pass? So when that 90-day occupancy or that 90-day period comes in, they see it before it goes live? Just, I feel
I believe there is, through the normal notification process that ordinances and laws get passed in the city and the comment periods, that would be the time. And we have board representation
Correct.
as well. So
Yes.
that would be I would imagine that would be the conduit for the Brentwood Forest residents with Alderman Erger and Alderman Harder.
Correct. You took the words right out of my mouth. We've been talking to Alderman Lockmiller about how best to engage the entire board so that they're not hearing about this the first time when it's first reading at the Board of Aldermen level. So there are 2 items that we're kind of considering. Did you want to say something about that?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I did want to say,
Let me cede my time.
okay, sir, will you cede your time? Brentwood Forest, the existing apartments and condos would not be required for sprinkling as they're pre-existing. Would be only for new construction.
or major renovations?
It's 50% of the entire building, so just a condo renovation would not prop that.
Okay.
And I don't even think it wouldn't even apply for a renovation of the entire building because it's a pre-existing building.
Okay.
Nonetheless, we are talking about engaging Alderwoman Harder and Alderman Eager. And so I'm going to be talking to the mayor to kind of talk further about how best to do this. Is it a workshop of the entire board, or does the planning development staff, police, fire, and possibly Alderman Lockmiller meet with groups of aldermen without triggering the quorum? Just to give them a little chance off the record to kind of talk and understand what is being proposed. So there are 2 paths that are being considered, and so we're going to be bringing that to the board for further consideration before it ever gets on the agenda.
And I know this will be a harder group to get a hold of, but there are the 2 condo buildings in Ward 2 as well, the Hanley Station condos as well.
And so we can reach out to the property manager and meet with them. We've met with them on other things in the past, and they seem to be agreeable to meet with staff, so we should be able to do that as well.
Thank you.
Is there any other, a lot of this was commercial oriented. Is there some residential things that you guys have seen in this new code that you want to make us aware of?
Yes, I would like to just bring up, kind of going back to the CO detectors, mainly so everyone kind of has a little bit more knowledge on those. There's some companies out there, there's one that's called Xsense, S-E-N-S-E, that you can get like a 6-pack of interconnected detectors that are smoke and carbon monoxide for $191. First Alert makes one, $54 for that one. And the way they work is it's not so much Bluetooth, they work off of the sound of when the one goes off, it will set the other ones off in the home. So there's no wires to be ran, nothing like that. You can put one in the basement, 2nd floor, 1st floor, 3rd floor, whatever, to where they all interconnect that way. And they work very well from what I understand. And then as far as on that disconnect that we talked about earlier, or that was brought up earlier, believe it or not, there's actually several places here in town. May I approach with some photos? So there's some photos I'm going to bring up, and the villas at Brentwood, they have several disconnects there already. There's several disconnects on the new condos that were just built by Fisher Homes up off Eager Road, the townhomes up there. And then also Brentwood Forest has all of pretty much their power is set up where you can go out and flip a breaker and it'll shut off your power. So kind of, and once again, they've been there for quite a while. There's also a photo in here of one of the homes in town here that has EV shut off, just to show you kind of what it looks like. But the photos of the forest, and they're all marked where you can kind of see what we're seeing. a spot on the actual panel that a lock or some type of tag can be put on. Ameren actually uses a little wire tag that comes off pretty easy actually, but I know there was concern at the last meeting about burglars or different people or kids accessing these panels. With the fire department, we can pretty much, if there was a twist tie on there or something to kind of deter kids or somebody from getting in there, as far as the panel. As you can see, the Brentwood Forest and the villas at Brentwood, which they were built in 2001, finished in 2003, 14 buildings, 331 units. So theirs have been like that pretty much since day one. So anyway, just wanted to make sure you guys knew that. And then the lithium-ion battery thing too. So one of the issues with not so much the solar panel and then the battery storage, but we have several places here in town that have lithium-ion battery recycle bins set up. So that was the other concern with the lithium-ion. So matter of fact, our guys ran on a call today with it was lithium-ion battery, looks like it's going to explode in a remote. A guy drove up with it in his car up on the lot at Home Depot. Our guys responded to it. It was an actual remote control that had a lithium-ion battery in it that was about to explode. So it was taken out, put in a bucket of water, and it was still boiling the water 6 hours later. So yeah, just kind of give you, an idea. But anyway, mainly wanted to just touch base with you on that, so.
And I don't know, Tim or Ed, I guess you get how important it is, especially with mutual aid to the surrounding communities, that we all get on the same page when it comes to some of these codes because of what you guys run into other communities.
Yes, so ideally, if all the communities are on the same code cycle, then we would be confident that all the buildings are built the same way, the systems are protected the same way. I know that's ideal, but I know that that's not reality. But at least for the fire code portion of it, yes, I would be confident that all of the cities would agree that the changes to the fire code is what is needed. And as John alluded to before, everything that we're looking at where we advocate for the change, it's for life safety. So it's good for the occupants of the building, and it's good for us when we get called when things are not working well in the building.
Questions for fire department?
Great. Thank you for the opportunity to present.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else?
Yeah, we wanted to address, if you were looking at slide 41, it doesn't talk about coverage of stairs. What it just says is ramps not within or serving a building, porch, or deck are exempt from the codes covering ramps. It just means the code section covering ramps are exclude those that are not serving a building, porch, or deck.
It's the slide one above that.
Okay.
You put together a nice, robust slide deck, so.
So these are just saying, again, it's the same thing. Some stairs have been exempted from the codes covering the stairs. So the code requirements for some of the stairs, i.e. a handrail, the height and width of a riser, are not are excluding those that are serving a building, porch, or deck, stairs leading to non-habitable attics, and leading to a crawl space. So they do not have to meet the code requirements of how the stairs are built. It's not that they have to be covered.
Oh, okay. I see where you're going.
Yeah.
So it's, got it. Sorry, I read that incorrectly.
I can understand the way it's written. It's
Got it. Oh, I'm great with that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying.
As Bola mentioned earlier, I've asked that we continue this discussion on to the next Public Works Committee meeting and give the opportunity for the other aldermen to maybe meet with the planning department and just get up to speed on this instead of having this thrown in their lap at a full board meeting. So that's what we'll do. If there's any objection to that? Okay. Yes. Welcome to come up and state your name and.
Thank you. It's been an interesting discussion. My name is Barry Glantz. I'm an architect. And full disclosure, I am assisting, as I mentioned, the meeting on Tuesday, I'm assisting the Home Builders Association with their review and analysis of the 2024 IRC, which is the residential code. The comments that you all have made tonight are a perfect example of why I think you shouldn't rush into adoption of this code. Johnny, and we have traded emails back and forth, and he shared the slide presentation with me, which I forwarded to the Home Builders Codes Advisory Committee, which is reviewing the 2024 code. But that code book is, and I don't know if he has it, that code book is like 3 inches thick. And there's many, many sections in there. They've addressed a handful of them. But there's many, many sections in there. The Codes Advisory Committee has been working 6 months on their analysis of the 2024 code. And we'd like for you to delay or slow down adoption of this so that the Home Builders Association has time to meet with your city staff. Once we understand better what's in the code and can have a meaningful conversation. St. Louis County, as your Director of Planning mentioned, St. Louis County is reviewing this. They don't even anticipate adopting it next year. They anticipate adopting early in 27 so that they have a good understanding of what's in the code. The handful of items that he gave you examples of tonight are valid, but there's many, many others, and the home builders would respectfully ask for an additional 90 days, just so that we have a better understanding of what's in the code and can meet with your staff and have meaningful conversations before it comes to this committee, before it goes to the Board of Aldermen, because that's not the right place to start discussing a lot of these items. They should be looking at it from a big picture view, as you mentioned. But we want to have the opportunity to have meaningful conversation with your city staff. And that's my request this evening.
Thank you,
Thank
Barry.
you.
All right, let's move on to new business. We have Parks and Rec and the change in fees for 2026. Eric?
So every year, during the budget cycle, the Parks and Recreation Department reviews our fees and charges and make recommendations for the next fiscal year. And so what we typically do is we review ourselves against municipalities in the area, especially in the mid-county corridor, and then obviously some private recreational facilities if it makes sense. And primarily that's like ice rinks, right? Because there's a lot of private ice rinks. So when we do this, we want to make sure that, we're within range. If we're going to recommend increases, they're not going to put us at the high end of any of the fees and charges. We kind of like to be in that middle to lower half, just so we can, provide good value to our residents. And so based on what we've looked at and based on as we start looking at expenditures for next year, we're recommending some increases. And there's a couple reasons why, and nothing that is shocking. The cost of doing business continues to increase. We've talked about that in the last couple of years. Part-time staff costs continue to go up. The minimum wage for staff continues to go up. And to be able to compete against places like Chick-fil-A and Target who are offering more money, we look at our fees and what we're paying our part-time staff to. And then ultimately, those are kind of the things we kind of look at. So we're recommending a few fee changes this year. The first are meeting rooms at the community center. We haven't increased those in a few years, and we're actually kind of in that lower third of where we're at with other municipalities. And so we see a little bit of a small increase would be beneficial, $5 for residents and non-residents for all of our rooms. The difference would be meeting room C. We always kind of put meeting room A as our most expensive room because of the fact it had the kitchen. And what we're finding is people really want the bigger space. And so the kitchen isn't the draw as much as having the ability to get it up to 90 people. So and looking at what other municipalities do, especially with larger rooms, that puts us in line with that as well. The ice rink, again, we continue to look at the ice rink fees, and so we'd like to increase those. We'd like to increase non-resident daily fees. Again, as we look at different ice rinks across the city, we're actually giving non-residents probably a little bit too much of a break compared to what our residents pay, and so we'd like to correct that. Rentals, as we talk to people, we are kind of near that bottom third again, and we continue to see price increases for municipal rinks and private rinks. Private rinks are still real expensive, probably another $100 above us. And when they came in the market, when you think of those private rinks like Maryville and Centene, their thought was we're gonna set high, and then everyone's going to come up to our rates because, hey, if we're charging it, everyone else will charge it. Well, our thought process is we want to stay below that rate, because if we're charging the same stuff and they're a newer facility with all the bells and whistles, then we're going to lose our people to them. And what we've found is that we've been able to keep most of our regular renters, so by doing this kind of idea. And then the party packages for our party rooms, our food prices for the pizza have increased tremendously over the last few years. So we've talked about, so this is just kind of to make sure we get up into a place where we're profitable on those party packages. And the last is park rentals. We did raise the Brentwood Park Event Pavilion last year for non-residents. We held the line on residents, but we do see an increase for non-residents and residents this year. That continues to be a very popular amenity, and it's hard to compare that against other municipalities because we're kind of comparing ourselves to other kind of more private facilities of that size, and even that's kind of hard to do because it's an indoor-outdoor sort of thing. But we feel like this is a good spot, and we'd be in a good place. The Brentwood Park Playground Pavilion, I will tell you, we've already made our budget in June for that playground pavilion. It is tremendously popular, especially because you're in that middle thing you're right in the heart of the playground. And so we feel we've undervalued what we wanted to price that at. The regular pavilions have been doing a nice job, but we also see that those are a little bit lower. And then the sports fields, we saw that we're a little bit lower than where we should be. So those are our recommendations for next year. And if it gets approved, then we'll put it into the budget, and then ultimately it'll get approved by Ways and Means during the budget cycle and the board when we approve the entire budget.
Questions for Eric?
I'll make a motion to approve the Park and Rec increases for FY 2026 as noted in the memo.
I'll second.
Just do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, Eric. Sticking around for the next one, Montgomery Park Design
am.
Services.
So this is one we've talked about in the past, is that now that excuse me, now the master plan's done, we're looking at kind of moving forward with the next step of Mount Calvary Park. And this is one we talked about, and I played around a lot with my mind because Mount Calvary is a nice green space, but it is kind of a blank canvas, if you will. And so what we're trying to do is come up with two things. One is a phased approach of how we should put those amenities within that park, and trying to get the cost estimates to make our budgeting a little bit better. And then secondarily is what is kind of the first phase of that. And again, I have ideas. We're talking to, when we get into, if this gets approved, then we'll start talking to the architect and have them talk about it. But my big thing is making sure utilities are together and water runoff is taken care of right away, because that is what we've heard from a long time is water runoff. And the thing is, and take Brentwood Park, we kind of learned our example in Brentwood Park a little bit, is every time you touch a piece of ground, you have to do a stormwater management project to go along with that. And so what we did was when we did the pavilion, we had that one basin for the pavilion. Then we did the playground, and we had to do 3 more basins for the playground based on MSC calculations. And so ultimately, we could have probably worked a little bit if we were doing it all together with maybe one bigger one, or had them spaced out a little bit better. We think they look great, but it's still something we think about a lot. So what we'd like to do is, with this phase approach, we can kind of say, here's what we're going to do with the whole park. Here's the impervious areas, if we have any. Here's where the water needs to run, and then build that at that first time. So, that's kind of what the thought about going into a phase approach. And so that's what we tried to do in our FQ. We sent it out. We did get 4 responses. We interviewed 3 people, 3 really good design firms. And ultimately, the group, the selection committee decided on SWT, and for SWT for a couple reasons. One is they have a lot of experience in projects much like Farnsworth and Plain Design Studio does too. They also did the master plan, and so they have kind of that little leg up on what we're looking for in that park already. Secondarily, which is honestly, I think the bigger kind of caveat that led them to kind of be the choice is they actually have a civil engineer with stormwater experience on staff. All the other other companies had to third party that out, and not that the third parties are bad, but going back to even the playground, when we had a small issue with MSD about the placement of the overlook, I mean, that was 3 months of work to get about 4 inches of dirt figured out with MSD. And having that person on staff was just such a huge advantage, and helped us move forward with that. And obviously, we have worked with SWT, and have always had a good experience with them. So those were kind of the points that kind of led them to win. And so based on the fact that we had a little bit of time, we did work with SWT on pricing, and they submitted a price of $123,000. And that included existing conditions assessment, so that's really kind of getting a good hard look of what that site is, along with geotechnical investigation. Got to make sure we understand what's underneath, because once you start digging, that can lead to a lot of issues if you don't know what's underneath there. The schematic design, and then the documents for phase 1 specifically, not for every phase, but just phase 1, and then construction-related services. So we did allocate $75,000 this year. It was, as we try to put together the budget, like, okay, it depends on what we do in the phase approach and how much we're going to do, and try to figure that out. And so we thought we had enough. We're a little bit low. I did not include construction-related services in the budget this year because I knew it was only going to be designed this year, and then we'd put it into the CIP, and then the construction would hopefully come 26, 27, those type of things. So I knew that we weren't going to do that this year, but they put that in there because you want to have that ready to go when they go. And so that, if you reduce that, that reduces the total design cost to $99,000. And so how do we pay for the extra costs? We are utilizing savings from other capital projects, and the one we keep going back to is the parking lot, which we're not going to do. We did, if the board approves, we'll have 100,000 of that, and then this would be another 25, and hopefully we don't have to do any more with that, and we can kind of bank the rest into fund balance. So that's our recommendation, and we'd like to move forward with SWT.
Questions?
I'll just add that I'm really excited to see this. I get a lot of questions about what's going to happen with that property. I think people in Ward 1 are really excited for something to happen there, so thank you. And I will make a motion to recommend SWT as the park design company for Mount Calvary Park up to a design cost of $99,010.
Second?
Kelly, could we do a roll call vote on that?
Certainly. Excuse me. Chairman Lockmiller,
Yes?
Alderwoman Tyus.
Yes.
Alderwoman Goode.
Yes.
Motion carries by a vote of 3-0.
Thank you so much.
Eric, well, is the next one you? Oh, it looks like Public Works. The Ameren Renewable Solutions Program.
For this particular item, I attended a webinar on Tuesday with Ameren. So basically, Ameren, Missouri is trying to transition from, coal-fired combustion plants to more renewable energy. So their goal is by 2045, they want to be net zero generation of carbon emissions. So what that means is that they have to do investments for wind, solar, nuclear, hydroelectric to transition from the combustion plants. So this RSP program, what it is if you agree to it, it would be a 15-year contract on the portion of your power that you would want dedicated to renewable power. So you can go anywhere from, say, 25% up to 100% of our total. What they'll look at is like how many kilowatt hours that we use as a city for streetlights, buildings, parks, do that total number, and then do a bill calculation. If you were to, say, dedicate 50% to renewable energy, what would that look like? It's a 15-year term that you would commit to for the renewable energy. It is predictable in the sense that whatever portion you say that you want is renewable, it only goes up 1.25% for the rate year over year. So over that 15-year period, it's just under a 19% increase versus if it's 100% combustion based, with the Public Service Commission, it could go up more than that over a 15-year period. So there's a non-binding letter of intent. If we want to participate, we would need to send that to them by the 29th of July. They'll work out the costs. It can go back to sustainability, back to Public Works. We still have time. The final binding agreement isn't due until September. This is just the first step. If you want to participate, they want to get a feel for how many communities. They did say there are other municipalities, that just didn't say which ones. So I sent them an email today asking for examples so I can better inform sustainability and the board itself. So I'd like to bring this to the board if we want to do the non-binding letter of intent. Again, you can walk away from it. Once you send it to them, say you're interested, they'll do the bill calculation. If you see that it's not going to work for us, then we just withdraw our application. So that's it.
Questions for Dan? We do have a subcommittee called Sustainability Commission. We could always send it their way unless,
But do we need to have
I
this?
think timing-wise, it didn't work because.
Time sensitive.
Yeah.
Well, as the SUSCOM representative, I will, it seems like if we do this non-binding thing, we'll know a lot, we'll find out whether
Right.
it's more cost-effective to do this or not. So I actually don't have a problem with doing this first step to find out, maybe, I
Right.
mean, maybe it's cheaper and this makes a lot of sense. And so I would definitely I'll recommend that, I'll make a motion to advise staff to contact Ameren and sign the non-binding letter.
I apologize. I didn't know I needed to hard refresh the meeting agenda because I didn't have that on it. Could I have 5 minutes to really quickly read what we're voting on?
Bola, are we referring this to the board then, or are we just advising Dan on what to do here?
July 29th.
So
it's
we will also be notifying the board as well, so.
On the
we're
21st.
At the 21st meeting, so we're telling Public Works tonight. And if there's a vote to go forward, then we'll tell the board as well again on the 21st. And then hopefully the board concurs so that we can go, and if the board doesn't concur at that point, then we would just withdraw. Yeah. But
Yeah, I
right
wouldn't even
now-
submit if the board says no, then I don't submit by the 29th. If the
But
board
we're
says
not,
yes.
I mean,
It's just a letter of intent.
it's
Do
just
you
a letter of
want them to-
intent. So
Yes.
is
No
there
commitment.
there's no
Monetary.
commitment, we're not.
There's no upfront costs or
There's no
anything.
upfront cost. We're not committed to joining this program. All we're doing is telling them we might be interested
interest.
and give us some information about the
Right.
costs.
Right.
Yeah, so that, to me, seems like a no-brainer. And then it can come back, go to Sustainability Commission and come back through us to decide if this is in fact something we want to do or not. So that's.
Like, Is there any type of funding made available once we enter into this?
I know they said that they look at your total bill and then they figure out what portion could be assigned to the renewable energy. There's no upfront costs. There's 3 solar plants that are coming either online in this year or next year. So you've got one in Vandalia, Bowling Green, and then the other one is in Warrenton. So the one in Warrenton's the largest one that can supply power to power like 55,000 single-family homes. Basically, whatever we would agree to would dedicate a certain amount of credit to that solar plant, and then essentially we would be buying less of the combustible power in the St. Louis region because it's being shipped from over there to here, is my understanding.
And this would be the city is engaging in this program for the city purchased of Ameren Power.
Right.
Okay.
And this would reduce our carbon dioxide emissions and help meet some of those sustainability goals.
At this stage, I don't see any cost to it, so can we just do a voice vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, it passes.
Okay,
Thank you, Dan.
thanks.
Move down to our final citizen comment. Anybody like to approach the committee and anybody online?
No, sir.
I'd just like to add that these are recorded and they're on YouTube, so especially through the code, if we moved a little bit quickly and you want to go back and look at it, it's available to the public. And seeing no other business, adjourn the meeting.